Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of Tea and Coffee with Paula and
Jay. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. Thanks a lot to everybody who was hanging out with us yesterday. And hope you had a good Remembrance Day and you remembered what was important. And very thankful that Mike from Freedom Honey joined us. And I can't wait now for the spring to get some of his honey. And it sounds yummy. Yeah, and the jam.
Yes, and the jam. Yeah, exactly. And then everyone was kind of sharing all the jam recipes in the chat as well, like basic, like 3-ingredient type things. So cool.
So that was the fruit, or the fruit, sugar, and lemon juice.
Lemon juice. Yep.
You got to try that.
Yeah, jam's going to be the thing. Well, we're not big on jam here because of the sweetness with our kids. But yeah, exactly. Making jams is one of the things you can produce with your fresh fruit and can and save for another day. So it's pretty cool. It was good to hear.
Paula Jam.
Paula Jay.
Sell it at the market.
Yeah.
We don't have to give it to our kids. We can just jar a bunch of stuff and sell it because you know a good market.
I do know a good nature's market.
Well, go on.
Yeah, no, so there's
This
one.
is not a secret. She needs to know. People need to know.
Yeah, there's a local nature's market in and around Breton, and it's every 2 weeks, although I think they're going to be trying to bring it in every weekend because for the run up to Christmas, it's going to be on Saturdays, 12 till 5. So we'll look out for signs within Breton, and I think they've put a post in the an ad in the Breton Booster.
So follow Paula, so Team Padge on X, and if you know where she's at on Facebook, do that too, because you'll post.
Yeah, I typically share it out whenever I see the Brooke does a post for it. I do share Brooke, who is running it along with a couple of other good people too.
Excellent. So let's get those out there, because I think after Friday's episode with Dr. Sylvie and Chabois, we need to really start having local markets, know where your food's coming from, and be very comfortable with that. And it starts with nature markets. So thanks to Brooke for putting those on. Start your own, and let's go ahead and patron them.
Yes, agree. Very much so.
Any update from the big farm of ours? What kind of? We started to try a chainsaw. I guess chainsaw to do.
Yeah, bless him. Our handy young fella started sorting out the wood, and then he wanted to go cut some wood, and lo and behold, our chainsaw seized. There's a mechanism that's kind of seized, needs to be fixed.
Seized, incorrectly opened, and then seized. However you want to slice this one, a little bit of work needs to be done. But we'll continue bucking for you so you can split some wood. She is the one that splits and stacks and burns.
Yep, I am the wood splitter in the family. So yeah, got the wood splitter ready to go, but yeah, need to cut some wood first.
All right, so we'll get on to that. And no more gas. You did your rounds again?
Yeah, no more gas. Checked it out. There's no smell, no sound. Pressure's good and levels are good. So yeah, yay. No wasting gas.
No, I'm the only gas leak around here now. So we're good.
you and the boys. The boys are pretty pungent from time to time as well.
We'll take that. We're good at anything we try and do. So that works out for us. So thank you very much for joining us. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of news here today. Some good news that came out. It depends how you look at it. It depends on what side of the narrative you are.
Yeah.
There's some good news that came out. So I'm excited to share that with you all. But anything else for the homestead for Martin?
No, not that I can think of at this time.
You cleaned up the shelter, got a whole thing done.
That's
there's a lot of work there.
In order to go ahead and get the wood ready to come in, we had to do a bit of a good tidy up and got that done to the point where when the boys came back, we're like, wow, what have you done in here? I was like, yeah, tidied up. Looking good.
Yep. So there you go, Martin. So when you come visit or come back, you're going to see a lot of changes around here. So I'm glad that you keep asking, and I'm glad that you enjoy it. And there he is. Yep, he's in the chat again. Nice to see you, Martin. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in some news because there's a few things that I want to jump into and deep dive into before our guest. Our guest is Jordan Kealy. He is an MLA from BC, and he's an independent MLA. So he's not with a party. He's one of those open voices that actually gives the truth, fights for the people that he represents. And I met him through the conference in Calgary, the Unify conference. And he's a good guy, really good guy. As you know, I was trying to run as an independent. I still think that's the proper path forward. Not all of Canada is ready for that, but some places of BC are. So Jordan will be joining us this morning at the 7:30 mark if you're in Alberta, at 9:30 if you're in Ontario or East. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some of these news items for the rest of us. All right. So Yes, we had Mike from Freedom Honey on yesterday. Go check that episode out. He shared a lot of good information about being a vet. He got out just before the COVID nonsense, and he's been fighting quite hard. He does think it's time for Alberta to separate. We can defend ourselves. And with the announcement that 300,000 civilians are going to be tapped as military, like trained for military to be able to shoot, drive trucks, fly drones, participate in logistics and other things. That's 1% of our population. You should understand kind of where we're headed.
Yeah.
Why does Canada want to build a reserve force? It's because they're anticipating needing one. And it doesn't necessarily mean an external threat. As we saw in Ottawa.
Yes.
They may be seeing an internal threat. I wonder if they're taking any Albertans at this stage. Anyways, they're gearing up for something. But Mike was very clear that he would be there for Alberta in any way, shape, or form, assist, and get back to work and do the hard work. And I'm sure he's very diligent with his $31 a month that he receives for his knee injury. Great job, Canada. That was ridiculous to hear that one. There's this guy named Mark Marison. Am I good?
Marison, yeah.
All right, Mark Marison. Obviously, somebody that's took several doses of that vax, maybe has some issues. But look, sometimes when these people speak, it's helpful. And I do like it when the East, provides some honest feelings about people like us. He posts here, right-wing populists who keep raging about what a hellhole Canada is shouldn't be surprised when the majority of Canadians don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yep.
Actually, I have no problem with that. So, Alberta Independence Reason, 1789. Congratulations, Mark. You made the list. When voices like Mark openly declares that the majority of Canadians don't want to have anything to do with people in Alberta who hold conservative or populist values, the message is loud and clear. Alberta is no longer welcome at the table. For clarification, right-wing means fiscally responsible, pro-freedom, pro-family. Ooh.
The horror.
Yeah. Populist means a government that represents the people, not the elite or bureaucratic interest. Shame on us. Shame on us. Listen, buddy. If believing in responsible spending, secure borders, energy independence, and democratic accountability makes us right-wing populist, then so be it. Get a t-shirt. I am right-wing populist. Canadians who benefit from the status quo are shocked that we're upset about where Canada is headed economically, socially, and constitutionally. But when a system dismisses and insults an entire province, that system has already failed. In a strong and free Alberta, we would govern ourselves with real representation, free from the ideological hostility and political alienation coming from Ottawa and the Laurentian elite. See, when I write my own posts, I use words I can say, just so you know. So when I'm reading other people's posts and I'm having trouble, it's because these aren't, I specifically use words that I can pronounce. You. It's so true. And it's I think that's why my vocabulary is a little bit sharper than normal, because of the necessity. I got to avoid words and replace words.
Oh, you're so sweet.
That's true. I don't know. I don't talk about the Pacific Ocean very much because it's hard to say. Oh boy. But it's very true. I do that. So hopefully you got a giggle too, as Paula just did. But there's probably 24 words that I actively avoid. And some of them we need. It's like, oh my gosh. Like amalgamate. See, there's one. I want to stop that.
Yeah, to the point that even JJ was kind of
JJ just nailed it. Like, yep, you don't have a lisp. I get it. Good for you. It kind of proved my deficiency. I hope you weren't driving while you're listening to the Levine Show.
Yes.
And then have a little accent listening to that part there. All right, so back to the news and not my medical conditions. There's words I'm skipping there too. Rise of Alberta posted here, and this is very true. And I am absolutely posting the Danielle Smith interview this week. Okay, it's got to come up before the Grey Cup, because she also replicated and repeated a lot of these promises in that interview. It's coming out maybe Friday. I can pop that one out. But Rise of Alberta reminds everybody, Danielle Smith promised action on 9 key demands from the federal government by the Grey Cup. True. I have her saying the exact same thing. The deadline is Sunday. No progress has been made. Albertans are still waiting. Yep. So I'll get this interview out. You guys will be able to see it before the Grey Cup. She says the exact same thing here, but she also adds a 10th item, which is pipelines on the national priority project list. And he's already signaled that's not coming. So there's really 10 items here, the 9 original demands plus the 10th one. So we'll see where we're at, but I'm pretty sure Montreal or Saskatchewan is not going to change a darn thing in that Grey Cup. Alberta should be making the move here now. By the way, go Rough Riders. I grew up with them. They're my team from Saskatchewan days. Go Rough Riders. And by the way, we never watched. We watched the last 1 minute and where Rough Riders ended up winning. So I guess we watched at the right time to catch really the entire game. They were down. They won. There you go, Saskatchewan. All right, Gov Corrupt. Do follow this guy if you haven't already. You probably do, but if you haven't already, he does some, back of the napkin math for all of us. So Carney was very pleased, and I'll read this to you. There's no words in here I can't say, so we're good. Mark Carney says his budget will put $3,500 into the pocket of every working Canadian over 5 years. See what he did there to inflate that number?
Yeah.
Over 5 years.
Yeah.
$3,500. Boy. Great, because the average Canadian pays $15,000 a year in tax to the feds. So, over 5 years, they'll take $75,000 and return 3.5. What a brilliant economist.
Yes.
Got there. What a brilliant economist. This is what Alberta knows. Like, they take so much money from us and return very little in services. This is probably the Alberta template, and he's just replicating it everywhere. And he's coming out trying to toot his own horn here, but it kind of backfires. $3,500 over 5 years, and with inflation, it's going to be worth even less.
Yeah,
like the purchasing power is going to be even less over those 5 years. So, thanks, Gov, for that quick back of the napkin math. Carney is trying to pull some fast ones on you. Just keep them accountable. This is a good one. So Melissa is highlighting here because a video came out. Billionaire John Katsimandis. How do you say his last name?
Katsimandis.
Katsimandis?
Yeah, Katsimats. Oh, I don't know. There's a T and I.
Billionaire John, speaking at a press conference about the ostrich massacre at the hands of CFIA, clearly states something is rotten in the CFIA in Ottawa, and he thinks this requires an investigation by an outside force. Wouldn't agree more. I know that Bernie Sanders won't agree with the billionaire, but I'll agree with him on this one. So agreed. When you look at the pattern, it becomes clear. A, anything demonstrating a low-cost prevention for COVID-19 was dismissed or suppressed. B, a credible path forward to stopping avian flu H5N1 without mass calling was ignored. C, neuropathic or non-pharmaceutical solutions are constantly attacked instead of evaluated. So include here, there is only one industry that benefits when prevention is suppressed, alternatives are silenced, and research that threatens patented treatments is shut down. And it isn't the farmers. Big pharma. The CFIA acted aggressively without conclusive evidence, and the courts never reviewed the science, only the authority to act. When billionaires are now openly saying that something is rotten in the CFIA and calling for an outside investigation, we should pay attention. Yes, an independent inquiry is not only warranted, it's overdue. Let's do it. This is an inquiry. Let's go check it out. See what's going on. Oh boy, this thing just jumped down far. Because why not? There's nothing to hide, right? Nothing to hide. Let's take a closer look at this. But as we'll get to another post here shortly, because more information came out after that one. Yes, we absolutely should have an inquiry. I don't think Canadians should do it. I don't think the Canadian government should do it.
And
maybe something like the NCI, sure, but it will just be ignored. I think something bigger out of the U.S. would be beneficial. Some international court, possibly. Something that Canadians and Canada can't ignore. It'd be tough if it comes out of the U.S. because all of those elbows up people say, it doesn't matter what they say. But in either case, yes, I agree. An inquiry needs to happen on this one. As we jump up a little bit more here. Congratulations to Jeff Evely. He was just on the James O'Keefe show.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we were aware of this. Jeff flew down there a while ago, recorded this. He's doing a great job exposing what's going on in Nova Scotia and Canada as a whole. Very proud of him. And he's joining us again on Saturday. So join us on Saturday as we do an excellent, what I think is going to be panel on the state of Canada, its political parties, the direction it's going, and a bunch of truth. So just to give you the heads up on who's coming, it's going to be Truth Seeker. So Tiana's back.
Yep.
It's going to be Maxime Bernier. So that'll be interesting with the two of them.
Spicy.
And Stockwell Day is joining us. So leaders of federal parties, including the one that's in power now, you know, the bones of the conservative, not in power now, in official opposition.
Yeah.
The bones of that one was Stockwell Day with the Canadian Alliance. So we'll be talking about politics, the Canadian government, parties, the system, and it should be good.
Yeah.
With those three guests, plus Jeff, plus Nico, and myself.
Yep.
So make sure to tune in Saturday.
Join the mashup.
Yep. You can have whatever opinions you want about our panel. They come together. They're not ashamed to talk. And, you know, we need to hear from the inside. Two of them were actually in the House of Commons in leadership positions, or almost leadership positions in Max's case when it came to a Conservative Party. But yeah, let's get some insight there. I think it'll be a great episode. I heard about this in church first. Canadian farmers have had enough. They are organizing a huge protest for the 22nd of November. Farmers around the globe are being pushed to desperation by their government's policies. Yeah. No farmers, no food. When they control the food, they control you. Support our farmers. This is the first online thing I've seen about this. I heard about this in church. A gentleman came up to me, said, "Hey, I understand farmers are going to protest on the 22nd. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know about that." But this is an international an account, and confirming that Canadian farmers are doing it.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what this means. I don't know any other details other than what we see here, the 22nd. So we'll be paying attention. That's going to be what, next week?
Yeah, 10 days time.
So next Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, and it is a global issue. The farming crisis is a global issue.
Well, it's a human issue.
Yeah.
No food, no farmers, no food. And we've seen the attack. We just saw the call. We just had Chabois on. Yeah, for sure. Farmers are in the crosshairs. They want to control the food and what's in the food and how it's produced and who produces it. Yeah, this is not good. Not good. So if you have any more details about this, private message me. Send me the post. Go ahead and post it somewhere for me to reach it, because I have no other details other than what we have in front of us right now.
Okay.
All right. So here's a doctor. No, this is 100% you. You say this name.
Vengopal.
What's the first one?
Oh, ragu.
Like the spaghetti sauce.
I think so.
Ragu.
Yeah.
I won't. I like your spaghetti sauce, anyways. So this doctor here, he's speaking on behalf of all Canadians, and I think he's a moron. Sure, I'll read his thing out here. He says, just to be clear, Canadians hate Trump. We would rather be flayed, drawn and quartered, burned at the stake, eat broken hot glass, and be fed alive to starving pigs than be part of the United States.
Nope.
Ragu, you speak for yourself.
Yeah.
You may speak for a group of Canadians, but you certainly don't speak for all Canadians. So I posted here. I don't agree with Canada being the 51st state. That's my position. I think Canada needs to split up into a bunch of republics. That's my position. Alberta first, possibly Quebec second, Saskatchewan third, Northern BC fourth, et cetera, until you're down to just Ontario. And that can be called Canada. That's where I think. I don't think we need to be the 51st state as a country or as a province of Alberta. Anyways, I continue. I also don't agree that Canadians hate Trump. That's not true at all. Only people like this goof thinks Trump is such a threat to him that he would rather be harmed. Like he would rather be quartered.
Yeah.
I would love Trump to say something so people like this go ahead and do that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, Canada will be so much better. Our pigs will be fed. According to him, fed to us, our pigs. Anyways, I'll continue here. This is proof that being an MD is not a sign of intelligence, only of indoctrination. Yeah, getting your doctorate and all that kind of stuff, become a medical doctor, doesn't mean you're a smart person. And we've seen this all over the place.
Correct.
Certainly means you can pass a test, you can do what they want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make you intelligent. Intelligence is separate from education. This guy's proven it for me. This Friday, I think we're doing really good on time here. So this Friday, join Donald Best on the Levine Show. So it's November 14th at 7:30 a.m. Mountain, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, as he shares an important announcement with the world. Don't miss this episode. So if you haven't noticed, Donald Best has been working with the Gruce Justice Project. They're working really hard on, collecting the truth, reviewing things, and getting things out there for the public to consume. He's been doing this for years, but now he's part of the Gruce Justice Project. You can go visit grucejusticeproject.org.
I will go put it in the chat for you.
Yep, to get yourself involved. I'll read his post, but he's going to be coming on Friday to talk more about what he's doing there. So Detective Helen Gruce uncovered an unusual cluster of infant deaths and asked questions that pointed to powerful interest. For doing her job, she is now being prosecuted in Canada's longest-running and most costly police disciplinary hearing. Her case will determine whether police officers must first seek permission to investigate public officials or crimes with political ramifications, or whether they remain free to act on evidence and their sworn duty to uphold the law. The outcome will shape the future of policing in Canada. And you can visit the Gruce Justice Project at grucejusticeproject.org. Donald's been saying this on our show for years now, for absolute years. And I absolutely concur with what he's saying here. It is horrible what they're doing to Detective Helen Gruce. We've met her. She's a good woman.
Yep.
And what she was doing was her job. But this is creating a lockdown on justice for sure. This turns us into a full-on police state, not just a quasi, but a full-on police state. The Ottawa Police Services are involved in this. Of course, they are being directed. Donald has broke this already by Health Canada and some of their directives around the COVID narrative. And to remind everybody, had I said this just a couple of years ago on this channel, YouTube would have deleted us. But they've now reversed their policy on this kind of conversation, returned our channel to us. And we lost our channel because we were talking about Detective Helen Gruce's case. All we said in that episode was the prosecution's claim, what she was doing. We didn't even say she was right. We didn't even say that the science backs her or anything like that. We didn't say anything along those lines. We just provided the claim by the prosecution at the time. And that was enough to be deleted. So I'm glad to see that the world is turning around on some of this. This news is coming out. This information is coming out. And Donald Best is definitely doing a good job with the group at Gruce Justice Project to get more and more of this information collected, presented, and out for the public.
Yeah, so just to highlight, there it is, grucejusticeproject.org, and then you can also go and check out Donald at donaldbest.ca as well.
And it's a good follow on X as well. So Donald Best CA on X as well.
Yep.
Look for that blue check mark. There's some impersonators out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And he hasn't changed his thing at all. Do not comply. That's how I first noticed Donald. Was during the Public Order Emergency Commission. He popped up on one of my feeds. I'm like, do not comply. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Looked into him a bit. I'm like, oh, an officer talking like that. A former officer. And then he came on the show and bada boom, bada bing, years later.
Great guy.
He's still doing some good work there. Yeah, we're a very big fan of Donald Best.
Yep.
All right, I see our guest is in the green room, so we'll be having him on shortly, Jordan. So go ahead and have your coffee. I know it's early for you too, as we get into the last breaking news here, and this one's pretty darn important. So if you've been following my work for the last 2 months or so, around there, I've been trying to interview experts from all sides. I've made contact with the CFIA. They responded and said no spokesperson will be available for this subject matter. If I want to talk about anything else, they would provide somebody, but not this. The RCMP also responded to me and said, no, we're not talking about this. We're taking orders from the CFIA. I reached out to many doctors, biologists, and others, experts, to be on the show. The only ones that would come on are the ones that were part of what I would call the truth of this subject. So Dr. Stephen Pellett came on. We had Nicholas Holstrom on. We even had Viva Fry on, who's been following us for a while. We had David Creighton on. and others. There's been others
Yeah.
like Chris Stacy, who's on the ground there, and we've also had Kealy herself on a couple times now to talk about what's going on. But one of the ones that I did try publicly connect with
Mhm.
was Dr. Angela Rasmussen.
Mucin.
Rasmussen.
There's no T.
Rasmussen.
Yep.
Okay. Rasmussen. He's a doctor for CBC. She's the one that was being used by the CBC as the expert on the
Mhm.
subject. She's been on their show many, many times. The way I found out about her was an online fight between her and Viva Fry, where he was basically being cordial and say, listen, here are my questions. Can you answer them?
Yeah.
And she was incredibly condescending, very dismissive. She was driving a narrative clearly. And at the time, I read her thread. At that time, I was still doing my research and I was looking at both sides, the naysayers and the support. And at that time, I spent a lot of time with the naysayer side of things. So I'm like, wait a minute, what is she talking about here? So I looked into it, and she's talking about how Canada would lose a $2 billion poultry industry if these birds were left alive. We have international agreements in place that say we have to stamp these out. This is not really about the ostriches. This is about the entire industry.
The greater good.
Great. Yeah, exactly. And that's what her whole post thread was about. I'm like, huh. Well, when you look at it from that perspective, well, then I would agree. Like, if what she's saying is correct, and again, with that with that caveat that if what she's saying is correct, and Canada has these international agreements, and we have to stamp them out in order to protect all food supply, not just possibly this particular farm. And if we don't, we risk, and she put this in her thread, we risk being sanctioned and shut down to other markets internationally, which includes our biggest trading partner, South. If we don't, but she painted this entire picture that there is no choice. You have to stamp them out. And if you don't, we risk a $2 billion poultry industry. Subsequently, I spoke to more experts after that thread, and that's when I learned through various experts that no, there are exceptions.
Yes.
There are ways to not stamp them out. One of them was if they're good for research. That's one of the ways. Another one was containment and testing after and find out if it's gone. There was it used to be a 3-month burnout period, according to Dr. Pellick, with the international agreements and understandings of quarantine and cleaning. Like there's a recovery. There's an option for recovery. It was 3 months, and then they shortened it down to 1 month. So after 1 month, if there's no more infection, there's no more outbreak, that is also one of the ways you can go ahead and continue with that farm and not stamp it out.
Yeah, we were dealing with 11 months.
Correct. So that's where, I was raising the bell, like, look, guys, there's exceptions to this. They don't have to do this. But what we're seeing in the court was the argument from CFIA was around the authority, whether or not they had the authority to issue a call order, and whether or not that authority stands and can be, I guess, unfettered. You can't argue it. You can't appeal it. And I understand that when it went through the courts, the federal court, it wasn't to appeal the order's merits. That wasn't allowed to be brought forward in the court. All that was in front of the court was the statutory authority of the CFIA to issue the call order. But during some of this, they also provided their justification for the call order as part of their arguments. So imagine my surprise when Dr. Angela said the opposite now.
Yeah.
She wrote here, I spoke to Science Cohen yesterday about the great H5N1 ostrich call. The biggest tragedy is that it all could have been avoided if the farm owners had responsibly enacted basic biosecurity and followed CFIA guidance for exemption. They chose to do otherwise. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
So there was an exemption forward option here. You can blame whoever you want at this stage, and I don't even know the merits of what she's saying is true or not. All I care about at this stage is she's now saying there was an exemption option here. You certainly didn't say that before when it was on CBC. She said there was no choice. So breaking news, CFIA's legal position collapses. Exemptions to calling confirmed. Dr. Angela Rasmussen, frequently presented by CBC as an expert, has now publicly acknowledged the CFIA has exemption pathways to avoid mass calling even when H5N1 is detected. That admission changes everything. It confirms, one, the public was misled. Canadians were repeatedly told by media and CFIA spokespersons that international agreements require calling and that there were no alternatives. That narrative was false. We reported on that before this day. But of course, mainstream continued that one.
Exactly.
2, CFIA misrepresented its justification in court. During federal court hearings, CFIA argued that it had no legal discretion and was forced to call. In its federal court submissions, the CFIA argued that when a primary control zone is declared as a proper and a property is designated as infected, the agency is obligated under the Health of Animals Act and the reportable disease regulations to carry out stamping out, which includes destruction of animals. Rasmussen's admission clearly contradicts CFIA's position. 3, the blame is now being shifted to the farm. After months of experts demanding calling and portraying it as unavoidable, the new narrative appears to be, well, there were exemptions, but the farm owners didn't comply. The exemptions existed and the public wasn't told. This wasn't about science. This was about government control of the narrative and farms. Hundreds of healthy birds were slaughtered without honest justification. And now the very people who insisted there was no choice are trying to rewrite history. Accountability matters. Let's not let anyone memory hole what happened.
Yeah, they're putting the blame on the farm by saying, because you didn't do A, B, C, D, we had to do this, instead of saying, we didn't need to if there were other options.
And that could be true. Like, we have to still dig into some more of this. But what has changed now is they did agree that there was an exception, and that was not presented to the court.
That's right.
The court, all the court received from the CFIA was, we have no choice. We have to do this. And the court agreed and said, okay, you have no choice. You have to do this, which means the farm has to allow it. End of court case. If there was exemption possibilities presented to the court should have then heard the arguments from the farm side that, yes, we can work with these exemptions. No, you don't have to call them. Let's work this out. That wasn't opened.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where I'm looking at this. And it doesn't matter in my mind, that the farm misstepped on some things. What does matter is what was the public told, what was the court told, and what were the decisions based on. And if that wasn't honest, you didn't come in with clean hands, then there should be some consequences to this, some severe ones. All right. So on that note, we got a BC politician joining us today.
Yep.
And let's go ahead and get in there with Jordan.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jordan. How are you today?
Good morning.
Here we go.
Yeah. I'm doing good. Hearing all of that, it just makes me angry.
This is what happens when it's narrative driven and it's on BS. They even start to feel guilty a bit. They're like, oh, that maybe shouldn't have been the way that was done. But hey, it's not our fault as the experts propagating this information. It's the farm's fault that all happened. And then they let out the cat out of the bag. It's like, oh, so you do admit now exemptions did exist.
You know, it's interesting when you bring that up, and it's a play-by-play after the fact that this is about the federal government and their legislative branch, the CFIA, ruling with an iron fist. Farmers are not equipped to fight an organization like this. This farm tried going the legal routes every which way possible while their farm was under siege, while they had animals dying, while they were trying to get multiple lawyers. Like, just try and find a good lawyer that is equipped to handle dealing with agricultural law practices and handling the CFIA. Good luck. Good luck finding a lawyer that wants to even try and take it on.
And don't forget, you got to tack on international agreements and the World Animal Health Organization. Like, there's a lot of layers.
Nevertheless, try and take it to Supreme Court of Canada and incur $500,000 in court costs. You're sacrificing everything possible to try and keep your birds living, including previous business agreements that they have costs those that they have to pay as well. The biggest thing with this avian flu is that they killed the birds. Avian flu is still out there. It didn't stop it. It didn't stamp it out. They have a unique strain that came to the farm. the ostriches didn't go and get it somehow from outside the farm. It was brought to them by migratory birds. Even if they replenish their stock, which will take a long time to try and get those animals back, they're not a quick herd. They're not like a commercial meat bird. They can just get reinfected all over again, whether or not they're used for human consumption or not. This is an issue that faces all farmers across Canada, and it's one of the reasons why I got Kealy to come to the legislature. It's one of the reasons why her, as a small farmer, I tried to help her, because there's no lobbyists that help small farmers. Mm. The lobbyists are all in place for giant supply management and other bigger organizations. There's nobody fighting for the little guy. Myself included, I'm a small farmer. I've been battling droughts for the past 3 years. I've downsized my herd from, over the past 8 years, I've gone from 130 head of cattle down to 20. Now, part of that is because I became a politician and I was pissed off with the system, so I decided to get into politics to try and fight it. But we've seen this for a long time with the government squashing farmers, primarily smaller farmers. And it'll be one thing after another. This is just another scenario. And this is a scenario where it got a lot of attention, and so it should. Whether or not they had a meat program previously, 3 or 5 years ago, it doesn't matter. What the scenario is right now is that these birds got the avian flu. They're not used for human consumption. They are a part of a program where the byproduct, which is an egg, can be used to provide antibodies to help deal with the avian flu that they just got, which would be amazing, because you could actually use those antibodies in other ways to help our markets protect animals. Because right now there really isn't anything. It's the avian flu is an endemic. It's something that we're going to have to deal with no matter what. Going across North America, you talk about trading partners and agreements that the U.S. pulled out of the WHO, and they're our main trading partner. So when we look at our agreements, like the only agreement that we really got signed on to was by Justin Trudeau to an international WOA agreement, which made it so then even if Kealy did get to the Supreme Court of Canada, they'd probably hold us to international law after that, and they'd probably still call the birds. So it leaves farmers with almost no way to be able to fight this system. And you wonder why people are talking about doing farming protests. I don't blame them. On the 22nd, I've seen plenty of talks about that. I've heard people talking about it in my own town in the north here. And farmers are frustrated, pissed off that the government always talks about that they'll do something to help us. Most of the time, the money never exists. It's a false promise. Or if it is something that's in place, you have to jump through a million hoops. You have to pay for everything yourself ahead of time. And then if you might qualify, then you get part of the money. That farmers, I work full time as a mechanic just to be able to try and make my farm work. And I started my farm from scratch in 2008 with my wife because I love farming. I love animals. And these people that chime in on this subject, they don't give a shit about animals. They don't care about our way of life. They just care about this narrative about let's just slaughter all these animals. Like we're up to 11.4 million meat birds just in the Lower Mainland, pretty much. Do you know how much meat that is? 12% of my riding is using the food bank right now. This government's driving us into poverty, stealing all our money with taxes. And then they're killing birds. Oh, and the ripple effect is when they kill mass supplies of animals like this, it drives up your food prices.
Yep.
And at the same time, in supply management, the birds get replaced. The farmers with the commercial meat barns, they get compensated for the birds. They have to pay for the cleanup costs, which is a big chunk of money for them. The hatcheries end up doing all of the replacements, so they'll end up making money off of the replacements on that side. But on supply management, like the farmers don't really speak up on that side because you've got NDAs that exist. They're not happy with that system either. They don't like seeing their birds get killed. But you've got chickens, ducks, turkeys, geese. You've got horses that it's into now. You've got cattle, even dairy cows. Back east, it's killing thousands of seals. This is something where if animals are hardy enough that they can survive it, in a way, it's like with humans. If we have a really nasty flu virus, 100 people get this virus. 4 people have weaker immune systems and they get bronchitis and pneumonia and die. Does that mean that the CFIA comes along and kills the other 96 healthy people that have better immune systems now?
Right.
That doesn't happen in the human side. But if I've got a cow that's 15 years old, that's done, we love the animal. It's a great cow. It's produced tons of calves. They look like it has just an asset, or just like the ostriches, and they go in there and they unload rounds. It's disgusting. And that's probably when I saw how they did the cull, that was probably the most inhumane method I could possibly think of.
Yeah.
For how they did that. There was no scientific method to it. When you see the people going in there, if there was a virus, they wouldn't test anything. They wouldn't show it publicly, whether or not they tested in behind the scenes. But the people walking in there was no proper hazmat suits or containment. You saw people walking in just barefoot. You saw vehicles driving in and out that could have easily transmitted virus all over the place. They're not handling this like it was an actual major dangerous virus that needed to be quarantined. The traditional quarantine protocols were put in place. I'll use TB, for example, when it comes to cattle herds, that they would end up quarantining the herd. And when they isolate them and quarantine them, that's normally where it would be the isolation of that hot zone. And you wouldn't see an expansion of it. But this is all over North America, and we're seeing our other trading partners are coming up with alternate protocols where if it's a dairy herd, rather than killing the whole dairy farm of 2,000 cows, they pasteurize the milk instead. And it's safe for human consumption. So in Canada, we're stuck with the way where we're just pretty much slaughtering our farmers. And from the looks of what Universal Ostrich Farm's going with, I don't think they're going to survive this. Not as a working farm. I've seen quite a few others. I shared a post of another gentleman that talked about his experiences with cattle. There's hundreds of these, and they are not pleasant in any way. And most of the time, they haven't been handled fairly at all by the government either.
And what the really bad downside of this particular one is all those farmers in the future that thinks about stepping up. The Supreme Court basically said, don't bother. So there really is no more recourse at all. It's kind of been exhausted. It'll be very surprising to me if any of these cases get all the way to the Supreme Court again and sits down for a hearing. I don't know. Maybe they'll review something. Maybe there'll be an inquiry that steps in and says this was wrong. And then the Supreme Court wants to take it at that point. But as it stands right now, any farmer facing this has no options, and any lawyer will tell them, you got nothing here. And I think you're correct about this farm. The legal fees alone, the cleanup fees, all that's going to destroy them.
Yeah.
Any compensation for the birds is going to be chewed up by all of those expenses. And there is no way to reproduce what they had, which was antibodies that appeared to be saving the lives of these birds. We had Dr. Pelican. You may recognize his work. He was one of the expert witnesses who provided a report that the court ignored on this issue. And he was very clear that BC has a program, I think it's around $2 million, where they want to find ways to save birds and the industry from the avian flu. And this would have been one research path, no guarantee for outcome, but one research path to see why did these birds survive when they should be dead. If there was an avian flu outbreak, we'll just give credit on that one. We'll just assume that's true. Why did so many of these birds survive? And why is it not still an outbreak? And why are they not sick anymore? If that's all true, well, that's a very good reason to look into researching these birds. And BC has a program where they're trying to do that because, as you said, there are 11 million birds have been stamped out in Lower Mainland BC now. Across Canada, it's well over 15 million. 200 cattle were done just the other day. Like, there should be ways to figure out how to live with this because it's an endemic, not a pandemic. And I also had this cartoon in my head, Jordan, I'm going to share with you. A bunch of wild birds, runny noses because they got the flu, wondering why all these other ones are being killed and called. And the only difference between the wild birds and these birds are they're property of Canadians. That's it. So if you had a whole bunch of ducks and you called it your property, I'm sure the CFIA would come call them as well. But if they're not your property and they're wild, they're fine. Just leave them alone. So the only difference here on this particular issue on science level is who owns what. And if Canadians own that, we can go ahead and destroy it. And that's why the political side of this that people are pushing hard on, and unfortunately not enough, like Pierre Poilievre hasn't even touched this, is on whether or not the government has unfettered discretion to go ahead and seize and destroy private property. And in this case, the answer is yes, they do. There's no appeal process. They can decide that needs to be destroyed. So we'll seize it, destroy it, and move on. And to a lot of Canadians, that's scary to normalize private property destruction. Next is going to be your firearms. They're going to say, yeah, we're going to seize and destroy them because we passed this rule in not even in the House of Commons, but an order in the Privy Council will be enough, and they'll come and take them. Thoughts on some of that?
I think when you talk about the powers of the CFIA, that they're probably actually for a branch of the federal government that they've probably been given the strongest amount of powers out of any other arm of the government. In a way, they've almost got a part of the Emergencies Act built right into them, where they can actually use extraordinary powers like that. But for me, there's another side to this that if you look at the census, the past two censuses that have been done for farmers, you'll see that at least 10% of the farms are disappearing. And those farms, almost all of them are smaller farms that are going belly up. They're farms where the parents have no children that want to try and take them over. But what's worse is that on my farm, I do gate to plate beef, and I sell it to people. They know exactly what it is. It's grass fed and finished. They know what goes into it. Now you're starting to see cloned meat come into the stores, and it's authorized. They don't even have to label it. Small farmers are one of those ones where they can pretty much tell people exactly what goes into their food, what they're doing with their food. It's a direct consumer product that most of the time it also contributes direct to your local infrastructure, that your dollar for dollar that you put in. It's amazing what it contributes, where a lot of large scale commercial operations, you'll see that money disappear overseas depending on who owns the corporations. That I can use Cargill, for example, that it's an American owned operation, family owned operation, actually one of the biggest in the world. All the money made off of that operation goes to the US. It doesn't stay local into Canada. Most of their workers are temporary foreign workers, that a lot of the money made by those workers go out of our country as well. So it's, as you decrease the size of a lot of the smaller scale farms, it does a lot of damage in different ways. So for the consumer, if you want to buy local, shop local, and know what's in your product, you're going to start to find that harder and harder to find those local products.
Okay, and there's a question I do want to address, and then I want to jump into our guest from Friday. I think you're going to be a perfect conversation around that. But We'll bring that question up. Phyllis, you're correct. Yep. I heard the ostrich farm was a lab. Yep. They were working with immune biology or bioscience, immune bioscience or biosolutions in Quebec. $15 million government grant was involved in that project. There was a lot of research being done on the antibodies and whether or not they can be used to catch COVID-19 viruses out of the air and filter it out of the air through a mask that was infused with antibodies. It showed 99.99% effectiveness. This goes all the way back to a peer-reviewed study from 2008 out of the Kyoto program in Japan. So, Phyllis, you're correct. All of that's true. What also you may not know is when it was showing promise and it was actually shown to be an alternative to PPEs like N95 masks, because those are not effective. That's been very well proven. But if it does have the antibodies in it, then it becomes effective. As soon as the testing was showing promise, the lab was purchased from, we don't even know who yet, and then the program was shut down. And then shortly after that, the CFIA became a problem to the farm. So to expand on your question, yes, it was a lab at one point. It was participating with a lab in Quebec. And this has been spoken about many times. Kealy was on our show and he shared all of this with us. But what you also should know is that program got shut down when it showed promise. Now, who has, and I'm just going to conspiracy theory this one just for a second, who has the money to go and buy a research lab and then shut down a promising program? Very few organizations out there would do that. If you're an investor and you want to have the money and you buy it, you continue the program because you're going to profit from it. There's only one industry that I know of that has that kind of funds to shut down promising programs. And those are the ones that want to sell their product, which can't have a competing item in the marketplace. So thanks for your question there, Phyllis. I hope that answers that. And for now, well, let's just leave it at that. So Jordan, on Friday, we had Dr. Chabot, Sylvain Chabot on. He's known as the food professor. He was online talking about the cloned meat and that Canada has now passed or is passing or already done, going to offer cloned meat to the Canadian public without labeling. He came on the show and his position was cloned meat is scientifically fine. I mean, no problems with that. I see no issues with that. He was he was applauding Monsanto on the work that they do, and they don't get enough credit for what they do. Just hold on with me on this stuff because, we all were not pleased with some of this statement. He says that small farmers need to go away because they're going to go away anyways. So they may as well stop now because the government should have a lot more control of the food supply. And he also believed that cloning meat is going to be cheaper. So he also admitted to me, because I asked him, what's the problem they're trying to solve with cloned meat? He's like, there is no problem. It's just going to be better for everybody, except farmers, except consumers who don't know if it's in there or not. So some of your thoughts as a beef cattle farmer. Cloned meat is entering the market, no labels, and to me it feels like it's meant to crush the remaining small farms.
It's great you mentioned Monsanto. That's one of the biggest corporations on the planet. They deal with a lot of farmers across Canada. I think that globalization, we embraced it to a certain degree, or we actually fully embraced it going back about 30 years ago, and we're a resource-rich country. But we're at the point now where we're seeing giant globalist corporations controlling our country almost completely. And I think that we need to pull back that control and focus on our core infrastructures and what's best for Canadians and British Columbians and our own farmers. And, I'm sure they love it if us small farmers would just die off and disappear. I'd tell them to go get bent. They don't care about the food that you eat. Monsanto, you look at the soybean farms, it's one of the products that's sprayed with the most glyphosates on the planet. And then they'll turn around and say that glyphosates are fine for you. Don't worry about it. The more we process our foods, the more we bioengineer them, the more we create faults in them, the more they're not good for us. And I think this is where we're really going wrong in a society. And I think that it's interesting that they're targeting cattle farmers with this, is because cattle farming is one of the few farms left where we're not controlled by supply management to a certain degree. And now they're coming after us. So if people want to have their fake meat burger from Beyond Beef, and they actually go and look up the real ingredients, it's one thing if you're in the restaurant and you look at the ingredients. If you look up the real ingredients and you see that there's over 18 ingredients in that patty, those aren't good for you. They can say that they're good for you. If you want to have it, go right ahead. It's not something that I'm going to ingest. But if you want to have products that have titanium dioxide in them and other products, it makes you wonder why this upcoming generation has more cancers than the previous one that's older. Maybe it's because of the crap that we're eating.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I kind of want to take us back a little bit here, Jordan. In 2022, when I first started to be a reporter, a journalist, and talking to my neighbors, what's important to you? I live in Alberta, west of Edmonton. There's a lot of cattle farmer around here. It was very clear that government getting involved was a major issue. So at that time, it was the fertilizer 30% reduction. They said flat out, globally, all farmers have to reduce by 30%. This is the best thing for the whole world, climate change, et cetera, et cetera. But when I spoke to farmers, they were very clear that they don't put 1 kilo more fertilizer on their land than they need to. They are by far the most expert on this particular issue because they don't waste money. They work really hard at balancing everything in order to get the best yield out of their property. So when I brought this question forward to a scientist who's pushing this online, actually out of Red Deer for Agriculture Canada, he ended up losing the argument. And all he told me was go Google global sources because that's what we're using. So it was clear to me that they were using global initiatives to go ahead and push this on Canadian people. So this was 2022. Then we also saw the push with water, regulating water, talking about how water is being overused by farmers. So there was another push on farmers. At the same time, we also saw, because this was during COVID, when we had logistical and supply issues, that they were now offering, and this is the Liberal government through our Conservative MPs were pushing this. You can take loans now from the government where it used to be, I think it was like, I don't know, 150,000 or so. It was secured against your crop or your production. This new loan, which was a higher amount, was now secured against the land. So when you default, you lose the land. So I called out and said, look, they're trying to take away your land by offering you these loans. Do whatever you can to not take these loans. That would be horrible. And then another one shortly after that was the Senate Bill 293 called the Pandemic Preparedness Act, or bill, which was going to do exactly what we saw happen to the ostrich farm. Is the government's going to take control. They're going to dictate what happens with no appeal. And you're just going to have to do it. So we've seen several steps before we got to even here with the cloning of the government biting at the small farmer. I'm surprised so many of you still exist at this stage. That just shows how hardy you are. So is this in your opinion, a systemic decision to go ahead and remove small farms, make them all large industrial farms, control the entire supply, including what goes in there, and they may have, vaccine-induced or infused meat for you, and you don't have to take your COVID shot and flu shots anymore. Just eat this meat. Like I'm speculating on that side of things, but when they have full control of the whole food supply, and there is no small farmer like my neighbors and people like you, who's going to be in control of that? And it's the same people that said safe and effective, and that these birds had to be stamped out.
Well, I think when it comes to the small farming side, it's not easy to get into farming. It costs a lot of money. It's a lot of hard work. Even the families that are involved in farming, there's a lot of the children that choose not to get involved in it because they see how much it's broken and hurt their parents. Just that alone has made it difficult for farming. Then you take the people that are passionate about farming, like myself, that I started from scratch. I didn't really have anybody help. You come up against a lot of roadblocks where you find the large chains that they'll control what you can sell for. The fertilizer chains, they control what you can buy your fertilizer for. There's so many different ways that they control how your product will be sold for, or being able to buy your seeds or buy your fertilizer, how much goes into your product. Even when it came to the regulations that they're doing forward now, in a lot of different ways, even in British Columbia, the government is adding very insidious nature in behind a lot of the bills to give them a lot of power to be able to do things outside of the House and legislature, so then they can pretty much make a lot of decisions without people really being able to see it at all. Whereas if they're in the House debating about it, you can somewhat watch it and see what's going on. Whereas a lot of these bills, like Bill 7, 14, 15, Bill 31, when it comes to the power transmission line that they're trying to build in BC, there's a lot of information that's on the back end of these bills that give them huge amounts of power where they can do different things, or like the Water Sustainability Act that they ended up coming out with. It controls how farmers are able to use water as well. They wanted every farmer to register their dugouts, where it's pretty much you in the north here, you dig a hole, and when snow melts, the water runoff fills the hole, and your cattle can drink out of that during the summertime. They wanted us to register that as a drinking water source, even though you can't really prove exactly how much they're drinking, how much wildlife might be drinking out of it. But this is how much they're trying to overregulate farmers. And I honestly think that they just want these giant commercial farms to control everything. And it's difficult that when you see the small farmer die off, the chunk of land that they do have, the commercial farmer buys that up. And once it gets into their land mass, you'll probably never see it go back to a small farm again.
Correct. Yeah. One thing that the government's not known for is releasing control later and helping you go ahead and take care of yourself after they got the dependency in place with you to them. Only when a toppled government does that happen, never a sitting government. Okay, so you are part of the government. You became an independent candidate. You ran for the provincial legislature. You won over in your riding. And you mentioned, part of the reason to do that was to fight back as a farmer, as a politician. So congratulations for that. We need more people like you in there. As we wrap up here, do you want to kind of let people know why you went independent, and what have you been able to observe or even get involved in when it comes to the BC legislature as an independent candidate or an independent MLA?
Yeah, I campaigned as a BC conservative for 12 months. I helped build the party. A lot of the policies, I believe in them. I am conservative. My riding is very conservative. We thought that it was something new that came along that would actually represent rural BC, because the Liberal Party always they'd represent our area. People had to kind of pretty much force to vote for them because we had no Conservative Party before that. And we never got anything back. They always swung to the swing ridings in the Lower Mainland. So when I got in, I thought it was great, but then we figured out that the Liberals that they let into the party, they actually let in more than half of the Liberals, and the Liberals now controlled the Conservative Party. And then John really just lied about a lot of the promises that he had made about what he was going to do. And he always said that he wasn't going to whip his MLAs, and that we'd represent our ridings first and foremost, party second. And then the first thing he does is kick out an MLA. And when I challenged leadership, that's pretty much, it was crickets, and this is how the party was going to be. And I'm not going to be turned into a Liberal. So I chose to leave the party, and even if I stand alone as an independent, I'll stand strong, representing my riding first and foremost. I believe in democracy that way. That originally, when the legislature was created, that they were all independents at that time, and they represented their ridings directly. There was no manipulation by parties, the stakeholders, the lobbyists, the bureaucrats within them. They all manipulate everything before it actually gets to the House and representation. They'll whip their MLAs, they'll backbench them, they'll give them scripts. This is one of the biggest perks about being an independent, is that I really just can come to the House, and I'm not just the critic of one thing anymore. I can be the critic of everything. So when I was in the Conservative Party, they told me not to speak about the ostrich farm, and I was the ag critic, and I said, well, this is relevant to all farms with animals. We have to talk about this. And they told me not to. So one of the first things that I did when I was an independent was that I brought it up, that we should talk about this. And I made sure that I got Kealy there. I introduced her. I said something in question period to the Premier as well as the Ag Minister. And then I got her a meeting with the Ag Minister, Lennon Poppin, at the time. And then we did a press conference. And these are the things that we should be doing as MLAs, that if people don't have representation to help get their voices out there. It's another thing too, coming straight out in question period and asking the Premier that he's now admitted that he made a mistake with the drug decriminalization federally, and that it shouldn't have been done. Well, then I came straight out and asked him, well, then get rid of it. Right, you're wrong. Mm-hmm. You've got drugs all over the province now, illicit drugs, where BC is now famous for shipping maple syrup and beer with meth in it all over the world. That we have to fix this. It's ridiculous, but the NDP government is allowing this to happen. It's been happening for a decade in a lot of different ways, and it's just getting worse. And what's really scary for me is that I've been in for 1 year now. All of this stuff is happening far quicker than what I expected it would. And it's very alarming, and it's actually making it so then I'm really just grabbing the bull by the horns, and I'm gonna go with it. I'll do whatever I have to speak up on this, and if I get reelected, great. If not, then I'm going to make sure that people know what's going on.
Great job, Jordan. I'm very, very pleased to hear that part of your history. I didn't know that part, that you ran with the Conservative BC Party and left after you saw exactly what was going to happen. I got to kind of say, here's a comment from one of our viewers, Grace. His statement there has me now really pissed at the BC Conservatives. Yeah, don't stop there, Grace. Yeah. Federal as well. They didn't speak about it as there was one Emma MP who spoke up about it, but when I reached out to him to comment, he wasn't allowed to. So he was allowed to go out there and make his kind of statement and then get back to Ottawa. Pierre has said nothing about this subject last time I looked. And we don't have to talk about ostriches, whether or not they should survive. We should be talking about property rights and whether or not the government can seize and destroy it. That should be an easy conservative conversation. But unfortunately, as you just laid out, you guys were told not to.
Yeah. How many other memos are being circulated through these political parties to say don't speak about this, even though it's current, even though their constituents have concerns? How many of them are saying like, nope, how long is that list? Should be quite extensive.
It's the whip who also makes sure that happens, because I had another MP who's going to come on this show, Conservative MP, not Scott, a different one. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll come on. And then just before he's like, hold on, I may have difficulties talking about the subject. And then it was, I can't come on. And then it was, he no longer spoke to me. All of this happened in messages. So clearly, not just the BC Conservatives. No. I think in general, all elected officials get into this position.
I can speak to that as well, too, is that, the parties are famous for taking good MLAs and pretty much chewing them up and spitting them out. Is that you can see a very good politician that might be an MP, but then they go back east and the party will silence them and turn it into a completely different narrative. For me, everything that I campaigned on as a conservative, my policies haven't changed. That party changed. That party became a very liberal progressive party. It's just got a conservative jacket on it.
Yep.
What's worse is on the federal level, the MPs that campaigned on their conservative platform and policies and promising to the people policies that were very conservative, switched to the polar opposite, and seeing them jump to the liberal side into government to where they'd have a paid ministry, more money, power. That's sickening. For me, when I became an independent, I made my life way worse by doing that. I made my life way more difficult. I had to find my own staff. It was a huge learning curve. It was in the beginning, right when I was figuring out how to be an MLA too. I had to figure out my role as an MLA, what I was supposed to do, my responsibilities. That wasn't easy. That wasn't something that I wanted to do, but it was something that I was not going to let the system eat me alive. I could not stomach sitting in a party, getting backbenched, not being able to speak, and then still collect a paycheck. That's not why I'm doing this. If I was still running my service truck, I'd be making double the amount of money that I am right now. The reason that I'm doing this job is that I lost my father to this healthcare system. He ended up choosing MAID, and it pissed me off so much that I dropped everything in my life and I got into politics because it was the only productive way that I could think of to try and fix the system. So this system's pissed me off so much that I actually got into the system. 5 years ago, I never thought that I'd be a politician. Never wanted to be a politician. But now they've got a pissed off farmer and politician, and it doesn't matter what they throw at me. Whatever makes me angrier is just going to fuel me, because right now I've got like a nuclear bomb inside of me that's pushing me.
Well, you got a lot of support in our chat for sure. You got a lot of support from me, because this is exactly
right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks, Joyce. This is exactly why I am doing this. I was supposed to just be a homesteader, homeschool my kids, build a house, get off grid, focus on us until the 2022 convoy, and I saw what the government did there. And since then, we've spent all our savings to get out there and let people know what's going on, go to courtrooms to see what's going on, bring it back, and let everybody know. So, yeah, I'm with you, Jordan, 100%. Yeah. And I'm still going to keep fighting for some sort of political solution, which might mean something like Alberta leaving. But I'm going to keep this fight going. And God bless you. Like, sincerely, sorry to hear about your interactions with the MAID system. That's absolutely designed to take people and remove them from society way before the nature and God wants them to be. And I applaud you for that. Can you hang out for a little bit? Because what we're going to do is we'll have a final message for our audience, and then we'll go to our private section where we can actually have a couple more questions answered. Is that cool with you?
Sure.
Okay. If you have any final messages for the public before we move, let us have it.
My final message is for farming, know what you eat, support local, try and buy it local. If you can grow it yourself, grow it yourself. Know what's in your food. The people have power. I never thought that I'd be in politics, but here I am. I've already seen that I can make a difference. So if you're tired and frustrated with this system, start speaking up. There's different ways that you can make a difference. If you feel like you hit a wall, we'll try a different way. Hammer isn't always a solution. Reach out to different people. It's not always the extreme right way of doing things is the way that you reach everybody. The ostrich farm that didn't know a political spectrum. People didn't want to see animals die. That saw so many people get support to that. We need people to wake up, and we need people to see that there are so many things that the government is doing that's bad for us. Even though it says Health Canada does not mean that it's good for us. This government benefits off of doing things that are bad for us. Here's alcohol. We're going to tax it. Here's marijuana. We're going to tax it. Well, there's sugar. We're going to tax it too. Well, all these illicit drugs, we'll allow them on the streets. 150 overdoses a month. This government,
God bless you.
This government is allowing this stuff to happen. If they actually cared, it would change. Things need to change. Whether or not, I would love it if everybody was an independent, because at least you would know the person you're riding, their voice would get to the house that you represent. Not a party that's going to eat them alive. But you have power as well.
I believe you're 100% correct. I hope that you are reelected. I hope others go under the independent banner to do it, because that is the only way you can get unfettered, unwhipped, and absolute representation. There's no other way.
Yeah.
There really is no other way. So hang on a second, Jordan. We're going to jump. We're going to say goodbye to our audience, and then we'll meet you in the private area in a moment. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Just hang out. We'll be right back. All right. Just like you said, Health Canada is not for your health. It's in name only.
No.
Conservatives, and conservative in name only is all part of the game. Marxist language is being used to control you for sure. And make sure that you share this out. That was a very good episode, because we basically had a farmer's perspective on what was going on in BC, someone who's very intimate with the conversation, and got roadblocked and told to shut up when it came to bringing this forward as representation.
Yeah,
so
inside within the workings of a political party.
Mm-hmm. So there you are, BC Conservatives. They're not conservative. Half of them are liberal. They now whip, and they also try and script. And if you don't play along, you only have one choice. Go get your own staff and do your own thing.
And I will put this up here right now. Yes, Alberta independence.
With you, Roger.
Yep.
Or with you, Roger. Hey, folks, have yourself a wonderful day. Make sure you share this out. And if you want to become a member, you can go to thelevineshow.com to do that. We'd love to have you and join us in the conversation we're about to have here with Jordan. So take care of yourself.
Yes, everyone have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow morning.
Love you all, and God bless.